Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the first ever Proppy podcast. It is indeed an honor and pleasure to have all of you here. If you're listening in right now, we just want to thank you for coming in. Thank you so much for joining us on our first official podcast. Anyway, this is actually our test trial. We're going to be doing something different from now on as well. If you guys have been here with us on a regular basis, you guys would realize that we actually normally have a presentation, our weekly Proppy presentation, Proppy show actually. So yesterday it's our Mandarin Proppy show, but we thought of trying something different, trying something new, just to jazz it up a little bit. And we're gonna start this podcast thingy, right? So for those of you who are here for the first time and you're wondering, what is it that we are doing? Just want to apologize if this could be a little bit offsetting a little bit. But if you have been here for a couple of times, this is going to be a very different feel because we are going to be doing like as if we are doing a podcast. Because we are recording right now to put up on our podcast, which we will be putting up either on Spotify or even on YouTube. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. And I would like to also welcome our guest for today, the bodaciously gorgeous hot hoochie mama, Sharon Leong. Give her a big hand. Woo! Okay, I don't have sound effect. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Sharon, for joining me tonight. Actually, I'm just gonna do a little bit of housekeeping, just to make sure everybody is there. We're gonna be here for about 50 minutes to an hour. This podcast is going to be slightly different. Like I said, we are going to be, going up close and personal with our guests. I will be hosting this. I won't be the only host of our podcast. I will be hosting this together with a couple of other Proppians, namely Kenyan. Of course, hopefully that one day Sharon and also all our Proppians will be able to take over this seat. But as the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer, I think it is my responsibility to kickstart this whole podcast. And as you can see, I'm also a little bit. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but let's just do it. I know, eh? Because podcast is like the in thing right now, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Anyway, for those of you who are just here and we're just waiting for a couple of people to just enter, if you can hear, there's a couple of pings that's coming in. Occasionally, I think we will be there will be people that's coming in as well. But we're gonna keep it light and easy as well with your videos as well as your sound off. This is just going to be a conversation between the two of us here. And if you would really like to actually come on our podcast, let me know. I'm more than happy to have you here live with us as well. But tonight it is snuggling with your shadow, and tonight we are starting with the first ever session. So, Sharon, congratulations! You have been nominated to be the first ever guest on our Proppy podcast. Not even our CC. Super honored, isn't it? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe we can actually start off a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, tell us what you can tell us, lah. How would you introduce yourself if I were to say, okay, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself the way you want to be known.
So I'm from Singapore, but currently living and working in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, in KL. So I work with a property development company based in Indonesia for the past 10 years, and I've been seconded here for a project called Exchange 106, which is currently the tallest office tower in KL. Yeah, and so I've been assisting my chairman for the past 10 years, and he is someone who is very enthusiastic about property development, and he's very hands-on to even to like interior fitting. So he brought me here to actually start up the whole company and follow through the whole process of fast tracking this project, which he actually ambitioned to build 106 stories in 3 years. And we did it. So it's indeed very honored to be here. Yeah, and now I'm again in the same industry in property, in ProppyApp. So I guess it's fate.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you are here because of the Exchange 106. Of course, I'm going to steer the conversation away from the mostly, controversial thing about what the Exchange 106 is.
Yeah.
But I'm more interested to know a little bit more about your background, as in how did you eventually even land yourself here with Proppy?
Okay, so again through Exchange 106, we met. My colleague is a friend of Mr. Wilson, Mr. Lee Wilson, and actually initially I don't I'm not in contact with Wilson, but one day I was browsing through internet articles and I came across Bitcoin, and I know that yeah, Wilson is very knowledgeable in the area. So actually I took the initiative to actually contact him on Facebook and
I see.
learn more about it. And then one day he was telling me about this Proppy app.
Yeah. All right. And when you heard about Proppy, what was the first impression that you had?
Initially, I thought like, okay, so how is this different from like what we already have in the market,
Yeah.
Property Guru and iProperty?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're from Singapore. Obviously, you're very used to Property Guru, isn't it?
yes, it is. It has been around for like so many years. So whenever we need to rent a place or look for a
Yeah.
house, it's always Property Guru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time when you heard Proppy, and obviously I don't want to overemphasize on iProperty and Property Guru, and maybe reduce reduce their names, maybe the I company and the P company, and we hear them and we use them, but in comparison, after when you first heard it, how is and now that you've discovered a little bit more about Proppy, how is this different from what you know of the I company and the P company?
So I know like I company and P company, they are mainly like a listing platform for everybody, like for the tenant, for the buyer, and for the agents to
Yeah.
be in there. And
Mm,
most of the time when I'm contacting the other party is always the agent.
mm,
It's not very seldom we meet the owner of the property.
mm.
Yeah, but I know for Proppy, we are actually emphasizing for like owners to come on board and you can list it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of controversial things that's happening in amongst agent, when they co-broke and co-broke.
Yeah.
So I guess the responsibility in there is much lower. Sometimes the agent, like once they close the deal, they don't even bother to answer your call anymore.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you obviously had a lot of experience with dealing with property agents, property developers, in this situation. So, do you see this platform that Proppy is preparing as something that is going to revolutionize the future?
I think so because besides being like just going in there to look for a house or a
Yeah.
rental unit, it's more than that. They have a system that cares for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm, if you're a tenant now and you plan to own a house,
Mm.
property actually makes you feel that you can own a house rather than rent a house.
Why do you say that?
Because with a mortgage optimization plan
Yeah.
that I know about, I think it's very helpful for like first time homeowners. Like for me, if I'm a first time owner, I'm always very afraid to make such a big commitment.
Mm.
Right? I know that a mortgage loan will take more than like 20 years. Usually you sign up
Mm.
for maximum 30 years. And if I buy a property at 30 years old, I can't imagine having to pay a mortgage every month till I'm 60. And maybe by then I'm retired, right? Why do I still want to have the commitment? So yeah, there's a lot of like people my age, they feel that why not just rent, and you
Yeah.
don't have such a big liability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So so I've personally for myself as well. I mean, I'm going to give you my own personal take into even when I first heard about mortgage optimization plan and Proppy through mortgage optimization plan. First heard about it actually way earlier. I had a conversation with Dr. Max and of course Mr. Lee Wilson, and they shared with me, this concept called the mortgage reduction strategy. I'm not sure whether have you heard of that before. For those of you who have actually, listened, there's such a software where you can actually use to help you reduce your mortgage repayment. So when I first heard that, I was like, hey, yao kam ge
Nobody in
si,
the
and then
market has that with you.
yeah, it was like
Difficult to happen, right?
I mean, really, is there such a thing that you can actually and that is the first impression that I had. I say, are you kidding me? Okay. Is it like another loan? Like, do I need to take another loan to cover another loan? That is the first impression that I had. No? Was that your first impression as well?
Yes, yes, because like in this world, nobody like does anything free
Yeah.
for you, right? So do I have to subscribe something to reduce my loan?
Well, actually, you do lie. In this context, you still need to. But I think a lot of things, and that is exactly how I sort of started to discover a little bit more deeper and deeper. And the question was that, are you happy? The question was that was asked to me was, are you happy with your home loan?
Actually, most people
Obviously,
don't think about that, right?
what kind of a question is that, right? Yeah, I mean, and that was the first question that was thrown to me. Are you happy with the home loan? I was like, what do you mean, are you happy with your home loan? There's nothing that I can do about it. I'm not happy with it, but this, what else can I do with it? And I think maybe you could also share with our listeners, what is exactly mortgage optimization plan?
From what I understand, is actually there is, like you say, a system to help you reduce your mortgage every month.
Mm,
But it's not by reducing the amount, but it's by the increasing the amount you pay every month, which
yeah.
is like you can pay an optimum amount every month that help you reduce the tenure of your mortgage, not really the amount. So like instead of paying 30 years till I'm 60, I pay till I'm 45 and I have a fully paid property that I can pass on to my kids. And which I think is very it's very important for us now. Like we
Mm.
don't want to have a debt or a loan that we hold on forever till we grow old, and we will never know. Like life is short, right? It's unpredictable as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the first time when Dr. Max actually, okay, for those of you who are listening, Dr. Max is actually our founder, together with Mr. Lee Wilson. Both of them actually are the brains behind Proppy. And when I first heard, and he explained to me in much greater detail, first and foremost, my reaction was, Yao Gam Ge Si. Is there such a thing? That's my first reaction. All right, to be very completely honest. And then the second thing when he was actually said, okay, you got to diagnose your current home loan. Okay, you, show me your home loan. How much are you paying? And then do a diagnosis in terms of how many more years you have. And let's diagnose. I was like, diagnose.
Yeah, it's like a health check. We tell you to do a health checkup.
And it's really bizarre at that point of time. And I think sometimes we tend to be a lot skeptical when we hear something like this, and we thought that it's not possible. But I was impressed by how Dr. Max actually, when he kept stressing, yes, yes, and he showed me um, uh, 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 no, the cases, case studies. These are the previous case studies that has already saved half. Like, for example, if you have another 10 more years to, or 20 more years to go, and then you have saved by half the amount of time, and the amount of money that you actually can save is also half of what you're supposed to pay in total. Again, when that was actually shown to me, I have to be very honest with you. The first time I saw, first was, are you happy with your mortgage? No, I don't believe there's such a thing. Two, you can diagnose your mortgage. I was like, yeah, come to see. And third, even with when you show me, I was like, are you sure or not? Are you sure? And interestingly, after going through my own analysis and understanding where it is actually a real amazing feature that I think a lot of people are completely unaware. And it's interesting that we actually take this first podcast to also, and in a way lah, I hope that we will be able to just not only educate but expose, and also open up some minds, especially if you guys are listening in wherever you are. Hopefully, if you listen to this again on Spotify or on YouTube, that there is such a thing called the optimization plan. And when we talk about optimization plan, what is it that you know of, based on what you've understood in terms of how it is best that you can actually optimize it? why do we use the word optimize?
It's actually to like I said, to pay an optimum amount to reduce your number of years that you have to pay. Like you said, 50 reduce by half the time, like from 30 years to 15 years of repayment.
Mm,
And by that, you actually, pay an optimum amount to reduce the interest you pay to the bank. If not, you're actually paying double to the bank at the end of 30 years without knowing actually. Because we do not look back and calculate the total amount we pay to the bank,
no, we don't.
right? Yeah, with
We
this,
just only decide whether or not we have enough money to pay the bank at the end of the month.
yeah, and sometimes you may have missed a payment or being 1 or 2
Yeah,
days late and
late.
you're being penalized without knowing at
No,
the
we
end.
don't realize it at
We
all.
don't realize at all. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, oh, today is it the 30th or 31st? Sometimes we also blur, right? Yeah.
Oh, I do that all the time, actually.
So that's when it's very helpful when there is an AI in Proppy,
Yes.
our
Yes.
butler, our personal butler to remind us, hey, master, you're late for your loan
Yeah.
repayment. Yeah, because I think that is also a very, very big thing, when you are late for your payment, but you do not realize that it's actually a problem at the end
Yeah.
of your loan
Yeah.
after 30 years.
No, we can talk a lot about MOP, and we can talk a lot about how this is actually going to help the users on the Proppy. I'm gonna steer it back to your professional and personal life as well, in terms of how your involvement with Proppy. And today's topic is snuggling with your shadow. Obviously, when we talk about this, you have in a way contributed to Proppy. I want to know a little bit more, and maybe if you can actually share to our audience and our listeners out there. Um, what do you mean actually by when you say this is a shadow? How do you actually perform your task with Proppy?
Because like in Proppy, we have the core team who are mainly our C-suites, but because in the Proppy family, we are very passionate about this project and we would like to contribute in whatever way we can to make this happen,
Mm,
right? So, of course, at this time, I'm still holding my full-time job, but I still very much want to be part of this. So, currently, I'm shadowing you and marketing calls, PR. I wouldn't say I know everything very well, in all the roles, but because we're so passionate, it makes us want to learn and we just keep going, like I don't feel like we are stopping anywhere. We're just like, okay, chasing the train every day. Yeah, so I'm currently doing marketing in terms of PR events and covering a little bit of digital marketing. So I'm learning along my way as I, actually find my way. Where am I strong in? That's where a shadow comes in.
yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe someday, if I know, oh, actually I'm strong in digital marketing, then I'll cover that full time, right?
yeah. Mm. I don't want to make this conversation only a one way, like, since it's the first podcast, and obviously we like to do things very
Actually,
differently.
yeah, I want to know how do you come to Proppy and what was your background? Like, yeah, how do you come into Proppy and why Proppy?
Well, I
Trainer
like
background, right?
Yeah, I was a trainer before I actually joined Proppy. I mean, I have my business over in Cambodia. I run a training consultancy in Cambodia and also in Malaysia. And obviously, when the pandemic happened, it really you know really threw a spanner to the works. Everything just nosedive. My business over in Cambodia crashed and burned, and I was stuck here in Malaysia. And obviously, there were
Mm,
certain things. I think if you are in international business, you obviously understand. Also, you can travel, whether to meet your clients or even your manufacturers, and sometimes it really creates a whole different outcome, right? At the end of the day. So we've got to be real in identifying what we can do as well. But I chanced upon an opportunity in 2017, where I was a chief communications officer in Singapore for a crypto startup. And that was where I actually went into the foray of communications. That's how I sort of also got exposed myself to the world of digital marketing and communications, and it allowed me to also expand my wings now. So I think at the same time, I think this is also an opportunity for everyone to come together to really pull our resources together, our experiences. I think a lot of us who are in the team are truly talented, and I say this with no reservation, and not also to thumb out chest, but I'm very very honored to be also working together with you, and also the team that is actually here. And since this is our first podcast, I would like to give a shout out to all our talented team members, and we call them our Proppy family. And truly, this is a family where we all reach out to the same goals, same stars, have the same dreams. As a trainer, as a corporate trainer, and also a team builder, I've always mentioned this to corporate organizations. When you want to build a team, you got to sell a dream. And sometimes, a lot of times, we tend to say things like that in a very academic kind of way, because it is written in the book. It is what we tell everyone. It is what we also tell the C-suites, to tell the CEO to mention that, build a team, sell a dream.
Who
I
wants to
think
like
this
build
is
your dream, right? You have
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
so many
think this is the
ways.
very first time in my entire career and in my entire life as well that I've actually really, really get an opportunity to live that dream,
Yeah.
and everyone in the team pretty much contributes and live that dream, and that is amazing. And so I'm proud to be part of this as well. I hope you are as well.
Yes, I am. It's like it's part of a dream team.
Anyway, okay. So if you're listening and you're wondering why are we chatting as if we do not know each other, actually we don't.
No,
We
because
we
I've never met anyone in the team except Wilson.
Yes, yes. We are not even pretending. We're not even making this up. This is like, all right. We have never met. We've only met on Zoom, and you can't help it that we are actually on lockdown. Actually, it's a good thing that we're under lockdown. We all work from home. We don't even have a place where we can meet because we can't go out. And that was how we actually met. But eventually through this is like You've Got Mail, that movie. People fall in love over
We wish we
Zoom.
can do this in a cafe now, but yeah, at home,
but
right?
but I think this is also interesting because this is exactly what Proppy is also uh, doing, because I think we all are aware that
Everyone at home.
everybody is moving towards technology, and this lockdown has accelerated and expedited
Wow.
the shift to
Everybody's perspective of
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. In the say, I'm not sure how you managed to adapt towards working from home and using this technology. How have you coped, and
It
how? Yeah.
actually makes me feel that it is indeed important that everybody needs a home. Like you have to make your environment very comfortable for you to work in, live in. But I find that every space has its energy. So sometimes at the beginning it was a little bit hard to actually separate your work from your
Mm,
personal life
mm.
because you literally work and sleep in the same place. So after a while, you kind of adapt and okay, I will make this space my working corner, and then that space is my personal space,
Yeah.
space for my kids. So yeah, I think the energy, the vibe is very important in the house.
And I think from the context of actually Proppy, this is where I believe, from this context, I would like to also be a proponent on the Proppy app, to be able to go out there and tell people that, look, you can actually position your homes in such a way where you can actually have a like you said, like, an office space. This is your
Yeah.
sleeping space, and this is your common space. Not everybody can do that, obviously, but like for me, I've converted one whole portion of my living room that and made it into my office,
Yeah.
and when I go to work, I actually take the effort to put
Dress
on
up.
something that is nice.
Yeah.
I
To-
know that people, they wear a jacket, but down there they don't actually wear anything.
but that's okay. At least you put in some effort, right?
No, I think it's different, because I always feel that even if you're working from home, because I've always had this working from home concept, even when I was started my company back in 2014. I've always propagated on the concept that we can always we can work anywhere right now because you've got Starbucks, you've got Coffee Bean, you've got all these cafes with
Yeah.
with internet.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, with Wi-Fi. And I think a lot of the work that you do, actually, even if you go to office as well, it's always been, emails, technology, and now with WhatsApp, with communication, it's so easy for us to communicate and don't even need to be at the same place. And this has actually shown within that whole 1 year when we're working from home that you can actually do that. So actually, this is why home ownership is
Very
even
important now.
even greater right now.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think this also allows us to have an opportunity of working and making a career out of Proppy and Proppy app, in a sense that there is a functionality within Proppy app that allows people to build a business through the Proppy ambassadorship program, through Proppy embassy that is that prepares that. Because as it is, the whole notion of work is slowly, there is no more fine line between full-time work, part-time work, or any kind of work. I call myself a solopreneur. I like to think of myself as a solopreneur, but at the end of the day, you still go to your office, you still go to a place. But I think nowadays people are really, merging that, and this is definitely the world of the millennials, and those of them who are actually now coming into their 20s and the 30s. This is really something that they really love, isn't it? They don't have to go to a place. They can start their own cafe, or they can work wherever they want to as well. Where does it leave us?
Has it been productive for you?
Yes, it has actually. For me, I like this because again, it depends on the personality, lah. I think from my perspective, I like it because I'm able to actually do a lot of things at one place. I can, work
You can
anytime I
bake,
like.
you can
Yeah.
do your
So this actually, this is where it really actually heightens my the use of whatever talents, the use whatever thing that I can do. I can really do a lot of things, and I really like that. And I think I see that in a lot of the youngsters as well, in that context. So yeah, I think this is amazing. I'm not sure whether you find it amazing as well.
for me at home, even like I'm, when I feel that it's a bit cluttered, I want to do some decluttering, and I find, oh, I have this vase. Okay, I want to sell on Carousel, but then I realize in Proppy there is a Proppy pre-loved,
Mm.
right? So we can start selling there as well. Yeah,
So actually, everything that is in the house eventually is
can
up
be
for sale. It's
for
also
the
put,
right price.
you know,
Yeah,
really literally you can do your selling. In fact, people are doing live Facebook
exactly.
selling,
Yes, yes.
selling fish or selling all kinds of drop
Actually, I've been buying.
shipping.
Yeah, I've been buying fish from Facebook Live.
So if people are doing that, so the question that we want to ask, in fact, when we design this, a lot of times we ask the fundamental reasoning behind the psyche of trends, the psyche of what's happening in the future, what's going to happen in the future. And you alluded to a very important aspect of how the core team, the architect of Proppy designed this entire system, this infrastructure, because we are looking at what's happening with the current scenario at this point of time. People are actually doing their live selling on Facebook, selling on those e-commerce platforms and
Because I
everything
think
else.
during this pandemic, it has made all of us like adapt after like the first 3 months of like MCO, everybody's complaining and complaining, right? But when the second lockdown came, everybody adapted very fast. Like even the economy rice stall
Mm,
started to, like every lunchtime they will shoot what dishes they have and tell you, okay, this is dish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can order, for
yes.
your lunch, for your dinner, and they deliver.
And because if you do not do that, you'll be left behind and you can't do
Correct.
anything after that. And people are so used to even ordering and just staying home and order. Even e-commerce buying stuff is definitely something which we are used to already, I guess. But everybody goes and buy 11, 11, 12, 12.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually,
yeah.
what we do when we realize there's this kind of deals, right? We share with our neighbors, we share with our friends, especially when it comes to delivery fees. So, like,
Mm,
let's say I buy fish on Facebook Live, and I realize that if I buy over 200 ringgit, I get free delivery. Although I can't consume so much, so I'll check with my neighbor, right? Do you want to buy fish?
mm,
So it's like it becomes a group buy.
mm.
Yeah, and that's why in Proppy app we have Proppy Ping, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
You're absolutely right. You're really doing a very good job of being a marketing and communication shadow. Congratulations! I'm very impressed.
Very applicable to me, actually.
It is, and I think this is actually why it is so important that we actually continue with this education sessions that we have every week. In fact, we are going to be introducing more educational sessions on our Proppy Academy via our virtual platforms, which is like videos or even Zoom training sessions. I think a lot of people who used to go for all these training sessions, these workshops, physical workshops, and because of these Zoom sessions that we've had, seriously for the last 1 year, I think people, even though there is a little bit of a fatigue, let me be honest as well. Zoom fatigue. I'm not sure how many of you, when you're listening to this, you're like, okay, how often do we need to keep on coming? But as often as we are under lockdown, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's convenient. I
Yeah,
won't
it is.
complain actually. Like even if I need to attend, I want to know like feng shui talk for 2021, for the year of the ox. It's just readily available on your phone. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good for business owner like the feng shui academy as well.
And I think it is also important for us to remind everybody else that even as we speak about all these different platforms, even as we speak about all these different possible scenarios, these scenarios are already existing. In different platforms, and obviously when you're looking into where we are at right now, the reason why we are still able to do what we can do at home in the comfort of our homes is because these platforms exist. And this is one of the most challenging part as a CMCO, as well as a C-suite member within this context, when we were looking into this as well. And I think this is something which I like to allude to our listeners, that it is not the extraordinary. Sometimes we tend to be very mesmerized by extraordinary feats of accomplishments like Tesla, like when send a man to the moon, or space ground integration of internet and Wi-Fi and blah blah blah, 5G, 6G. Actually, a lot of the big companies that actually make it big are the ones that does the work for the laymen, the ones that you actually deal with on a day-to-day basis. But it is actually these platforms that actually everybody mainstream are able to enjoy and are engaged with. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to put all of these platforms, all of this together into one portal, one infrastructure, for one reason and one reason only: is ease of use and also greater engagement. And I think this is something which a lot of people tend to forget, when we are so used to apps. How many apps do you have on your phone? Let me tell you. Let me ask you.
So many until like someday you have to like, okay, it's time to delete some. Actually, most of the time, like 70% of the apps you don't use.
So I want to ask you, why do you keep your apps in your phone?
I actually clear them off. Yeah, I actually clear them off. So
You realize that we do not actually use almost more than 75% of our apps that is actually on our phones. They are just there.
yes, especially we have like even WhatsApp sticker apps. Yeah,
That's right.
but that has become very useful, right?
Well, that's where I want to ask you, what kind of apps would you constantly engage in?
I'm actually constantly engaged on like news, like
Okay.
all the Bloomberg news and all that.
Yeah.
And also social media, which can't
Mm,
help, like, and YouTube actually, because I do learn a lot of things on YouTube,
mm,
and Udemy for like
yeah.
since
Yeah.
this
For
this COVID period, I've been going
correct.
online on Udemy to learn even on
Sure.
digital marketing course. Yeah.
Yeah, correct, correct. So, like I said, we have these existing platforms like Udemy, but actually, at least YouTube, these videos, this is exactly where we're actually going to pull them under our Proppy Academy, where we have videos teaching you. Udemy is something like that as well. I mean, Academy is with the hope of not entirely to replace Udemy in that context, but in itself. I think the academy will be able to push a lot of opportunity for KOLs,
Mm,
YouTubers, or even individual
micro
Proppy
influencers.
pros. professional advice, to give hints, tips on videos, because that's what we do nowadays. Actually, we watch these videos all the time,
Or
and
even
and
if your
and
pipe leaks or like something like that, and you actually go on YouTube and you find that there are very innovative products, like for example, waterproofing.
mm,
If you have a leakage in your wall, nowadays they have this waterproofing gun. You just
yeah.
inject it and oh, the problem is solved. So you wouldn't know this unless like go and check out the YouTube videos. So it's like YouTube everything, Google
So you
everything.
have actually pretty much checked out those plumbing gun YouTube videos, lah. I'm assuming
No, no,
that
actually
that.
I didn't know this. My husband is in like interior design, like all this fit out works. So one day his sister-in-law called him from Australia and said, "Oh, my house is leaking. What should I do?" And he's like, "You just call this guy. He has this waterproofing gun. You just
Mm.
inject it, and 3 hours later you're fine." I was like, "Whoa, okay." And I went to check out the YouTube video. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, let's now look into how this I mean, coming into Proppy, we have, well, when, the first time that you actually, when was the first time that you actually came in on our Proppy pitch sessions
I think
over
that was in maybe like January or like December. I think December.
in December? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that we were actually at that point only just 2 months old?
I
We
know
started in October and
like,
November.
we started our company in October.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and now it's just a 3 month old company.
Yeah, and it's also an opportunity. Even there's a lot of people that I don't know actually,
Yeah.
so we are really trying to get to know us a little bit better. But I think one of the greatest part about this is when we are all aligned together with the same goal. It's actually much easier and much faster when we connect with one another, and there seems to be a very strong bond of trust with regards to the work that we are doing as well. The product team, the property team, the marketing team, and the IT team. It's just it's so weird to say this. We're not perfect, not perfect, but I think the blend. I'm not sure whether you agree. You can tell me what you think. But
I would say thanks to our CC, Mr. Lee Wilson. I think he
mm,
laid the purpose and all the all the intention, all the missions very
yeah,
clearly from the beginning. So
yeah,
everybody has a very clear goal and purpose.
yeah,
I think that's what actually made us like very clear without obstacle, and we just go forward. No
yeah.
backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think, well, at the risk of really, buttering up our C-suite as well, I think it is also important for us to also realize that our chairman, Tunku, I met him personally. And I was very impressed. I think that was one for me, a huge hurdle for me to even overcome my own insecurities at the very start. I think everybody who actually came in when they listened to such a project, I think a lot of people will tend to feel a little bit skeptical because can this be true? Is this possible? Like I said, even when I heard MOP, is this true? Is this possible? It takes a while for you to really grasp, to really understand, to really get to know what is the science behind it. I'm a person who actually really does my own homework, truly
Mhm.
trying to find out exactly what it is. But I think the next big hurdle that I actually had to overcome was the reality of because sometimes whenever we have big projects, right, we actually tend to say, oh, this so and so is on this project, this so and so. I'm not sure whether how often you have met those kind of situations, right? Whenever you say, oh, this dato and this
You're being
dato.
backed by this industry or
I'm so sorry if those datos are, or any of the datos is listening in. This is not throwing shade to any datos, but sometimes there is this connotation, right? It's like, okay, you're throwing names, and of course Tunku Nakyudin is a very big name. That for me was a huge hurdle that I actually had to go through, and I have to say that I was completely stumped when I actually had my first meeting with Tunku, and that was amazing. I was surprised at the humility of such a man, to who has seen it all, had it all, And reading his book is also another thing. I would like to also you know give a shout out to anybody who maybe go to MPH or get his book, get a session of Destinies, or if you well, if you are good enough to our uh, to our CC. For those of you, this is the first Proppy podcast. So I'm not, if you're listening back maybe in 2 or 3 months or 2 years from now, I'm so sorry. But you can go and get it from MPH if you can have a chance to go and get Tunku Nakyudin's book. It says My Life in Stories, a succession of destinies. And I would like to give a shout out to Tunku in with every respect, because this is such a humble Tunku, such a humble man. He was the regent of Negeri Sembilan when his father ascended to the throne as the younger Pertuan Agong. So imagine he was actually a ruler of Negeri Sembilan, but he's dabbled into corporate. He's always been in corporate, and he's dined with Prince Charles. He's been given a knighthood. Was it? I think knighthood in French Legion, like a sir, but in the French Legion. And there he was, spending 2 hours, going through every detail of the entire project where we were sharing. And that for me was such a humbling experience. And I really hope that one day you will be able to actually sit down
Yeah.
and experience that as well. It's really amazing. So and that actually gives me a lot of confidence, a lot of some or other, it's like there was a big shift even in my approach. I've never actually said this, not even to the CC if he's listening in right now. Actually, I never actually alluded, I've never mentioned that before, but I think it shows in a person's behavior, in the way we actually approach things and approach we do it. I think sometimes we need things like that, isn't it?
It's like it'll give you a boost of confidence. And
Yeah. What was it for you?
for me was actually meeting Wilson,
Yeah.
and he spent few visits of hours with me to actually tell me about this project, and seeing his passion actually influenced me, and I really want to do something, that be part of this. Yeah. And
There's okay, okay. We if he's listening in, there's something about Wilson that really we cannot
yeah,
understand, isn't
and
it?
it's like, every time he talks to you, you are like, well, you go home and you think through what he said from the beginning to the end, and okay, then the next day we think about it again, and me and my husband
uh,
together, and the next day we're like, remember what Wilson said? What do you think? So it's yeah, I
well,
think
I think this is why it is so we are very and those of you who are listening in, and if you're listening early and you're watching here early as well, you've had the opportunity to actually interact with the C-suites, especially with our founders. I think it is an extreme privilege, and it's not because when we grow bigger, and actually we have grown bigger from 3 to 7 to 12 to now having 39 on our English session. I think we've never actually hit more than 40. This is the first time I think we've actually had 40 audiences, in and many more that's listening in on the first Proppy podcast. And it's actually a real privilege to be able to be at this stage of our company, of our
yeah,
growth, and also if you had the opportunity to interact with the founders as well as all the team members right now, it is really a privilege. It is a privilege. Like I said, no, I'm not chest thumping. I am very honored to be given this privilege to be working alongside everyone here right now. And at the sound of really risking to sound like, wow, I know, like you are, putting up on a pedestal. But I think you have to give credit where credit is due.
yeah,
The brains behind the project, the ability to be able to think of the nitty gritty details. Obviously, it is a very mammoth task to achieve something that is as simple but complicated. Yet it is complicatedly simple.
so I want to ask you, like, how do you, like, what's the message you want to bring across when you design the pitch deck?
Well,
Was that What's
Yeah,
the
that was the challenge actually. At first, it took me a while, and I will have to share with you because we never actually had this kind of conversation even with our team. So might as well just share this right on the live podcast so that everybody can listen as well. Actually, it took a long. It wasn't a real long time, but it actually is a long effort. It really takes a lot of effort. If you really really dive into it and really concentrate and focus on what it really is. So at first, we were just trying to be a bit pandai at that, as usual. I think a lot of us, when we start, we tend to be, we tend to put on a little bit of not an air, but okay, we are corporate people. We've worked for 25 years. We know what to do. Just tell me. Just tell me. But and the funny thing is, I remember there was one time when Wilson uh, actually said, "You guys, even after so many times, you still don't get it." Yes, and I'm not trying, and I'm not lying. This is right at the beginning stage, all right at the beginning stage when I was actually trying to draft out the pitch deck. So when what happened was I said, okay, I cannot just guess because I really need to know. So I told Wilson and Max, so three of us, Dr. Max, three of us. Um, uh, and obviously he had to start somewhere, right? This was the nucleus. This was right at the start. So we sat down for more than 3 hours. I think it was 3 hours. That time, there was no MCO. It was during the RMCO, and we sat down and we sat down, and I went through each detail, drafting out the entire flow, and slowly, trying to understand each. And even then, I got it wrong.
It's not easy.
Nope, I got it wrong. I got it wrong. But he was kinder. He was kinder. He gave me time to change, to adapt, to amend, and eventually slowly we started to change. But it wasn't just me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not only you. I wanted to
No,
say
no, it wasn't
everyone.
just me. No, it wasn't just me. Actually, it was the entire team's effort, and also Tunku and our other exco member, which is Datuk Sri William Man. So even after we've actually come up with like a pitch deck, we are actually at pitch deck 2.21.
Yes, too.
Okay, we are at 2.21. That means I've got second version, but it's now 21 already. I remember when we were at the earliest stages of our pitch deck, and we were changing, a couple of versions. And when we went to Dato Sri Wilaman, now Dato Sri Wilaman is also a very prominent VC. He has also listed publicly companies, working behind the scenes and all. And he also took the time to really go through each one of the decks, and he really tore it down. I felt so embarrassed. The pitch deck you are seeing right now, whether it's the Mandarin pitch deck or the English pitch deck, I can tell you very very frankly, it was completely torn down. He was like he said, no, we got to change this, we got to change that. I got to go back to the drawing board. So there was a lot of work. There was a lot of late nights. There was a lot of trying to understand how do we actually tell the story, because at the end of the day, it's a story. It's really trying to relay a story, but how do you tell a story, a simple story that actually it has 10 stories in it? If I were a creative designer, or if I were to tell a story in a sense like you can create, let's say, the I company, there's only one story. It's a
Yes.
very easy story to write. All
Mm.
right.
It's
Let's
like how
if I were to write a muda.com story, it was also a one way story. Okay, like maybe if I write a Uber story or a Grab story, maybe there were 5 or 6 stories.
more
Do you know that I
stories.
had to write 10 stories? 10 stories, because there are 10 lines that link in to this entire process. Because we've got mortgage optimization plan, then we've got the AI butler,
Yeah,
then
till
we've
your
got.
page has no more space already.
I didn't have to. I'm not sure whether those of you who came in the earlier sessions of our pitch deck, there was one particular pitch deck that I actually had, which actually showed all the lines. I think everybody was stumped after that, because it was all the lines of how it was, and how complicated that. What mesmerizes me most was the fact that this entire line, even though I drew it out, I managed to draw it out. It was all in Wilson's mind without that drawn out. Now that is amazing. Now that is something which is has to be said. That has to be, because we are trying to draw it out, isn't it? Because obviously you need to tell the IT team this is how we draw it out. This is the entire flow, correct?
Mm.
But he didn't even do it with a paper. It was like, okay, from here you're going
Just
to here,
telling
from
you
here to move here, and I was trying to put it out on paper, and even that I got it wrong.
that's why you miss the line, one line, two line, too many
Even
lines.
then I got it wrong. Seriously. And that is to tell you, and also, of course, to the listeners here, in the sense that there's a lot that goes behind creating an infrastructure. And that is why sometimes I think a lot of people tend to skip this context about technology. Just because you could send an email, just because you could send a WhatsApp, I think a lot of people tend to think that it's so easy. The Microsoft Word. I remember somebody was telling me, the whole Microsoft Word page, there are like 10 or 15 developers that does each and every different ones. Like, for example, if you have a different feature, it could be a different team altogether. It takes a lot to actually design the entire thing. But you know what, we only have one. There's only one person that actually came up with it. So
Yeah,
congratulations, thank you very much.
and
We
usually
are,
I remember I met him one day. He was telling me about the whole infrastructure, and
yeah.
maybe like 2 days later when I met him, he's like, "Oh, I got something new to tell you. We have some new added features." Okay, it was
Okay,
like,
so I'm trying to bring some semblance of context for our listeners who's listening in. Of course, it's interesting to listen to what we're sharing. I'm not sure if those of you who are listening for the first time, you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, isn't it? We are talking about Proppy and Proppy app, and we are actually very excited about this because this is an app that we believe will revolutionize the way we view property and property-based apps. In short, our elevator pitch for this, if I have to do it, so is that we are the first uh, multifunctional, multifaceted, multi-feature app that helps you save money and make money from your property and other people's property. Now, there's a lot to digest out of that. In fact, I can actually take 3 podcasts to actually go through each and every one. There's actually 3 huge facets there. One is a multifunctional app. That's one. 2, we help you save money and make money. And number 3, from your property and other people's property. In fact, when you listen to that, you'll be asking again, what are you talking about? So I hope that in a sense that's why we want to use this opportunity to slowly introduce our team, get to know all the members up close and personal. This is our first session. This is first session with Sharon. Sharon came all the way from Singapore. Thank you so much for actually also coming in. I've yet to meet up with Sharon, but I he has been great, even having this interaction and also working with you. I hope to actually get more ideas from you as well in terms of what else you do. But final word before we actually close this, another 3 more minutes. Final word that we can actually go. What now with Proppy?
what now probably.
Mm,
Um, it's it's like it's gonna be, for example, like Grab when it just started. I
mm.
think, yeah, it's gonna multiply like wow, it's gonna be big.
You really think so?
Yes,
It's a
of course.
rhetorical question,
I
lah,
think
but you.
we're gonna be, but I think we're gonna be better than Grab, right? Because we have so much more inside our app than Grab. And like Wilson, we don't usually want to open up everything at one time. We'll let people slowly discover us, right?
Yeah, I think it is. It takes a while for people to really understand. So it takes, but I think at the same time, yeah, for us, and also for you who are listening in, if you're interested to find out a little bit more, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start a series also weekly lah. So it's not just on Saturday and Sunday. Now, Saturday, we have our Mandarin show. So, for those of you who can understand Mandarin, I'm a banana, so obviously, but I'm getting better. I can understand a little bit, but it's still a little bit hard if you can understand. It's not easy, lah, But I do understand a little bit. But for those of you who are more adept with Mandarin, and if you want to listen to our Mandarin show, come every Saturday. It is from 9 o'clock until about 10:30. give or take lah. Sometimes 1 hour is too short because there's a lot of things to talk about as well. And like what happened yesterday, we actually, after everybody went off. Now, I think I shouldn't be, that there was like, sometimes when there's a movie and the end, there's an end credits, scene. So after everybody went back, there were still questions that were to be asked, and they stayed back, and that was actually also very, very good as well. And we actually right now we are going to be starting our podcast, our English Proppy podcast that will happen every Sunday at 9 o'clock, same time for 1 hour. We are going to invite. I would like to invite more Proppians to come on board to actually share their personal experience, also in terms of understanding a little bit more about what Proppy is and how it really actually changed their lives or affected them. But at the same time, I'm also looking into industry captains in property or investment, or even in other areas, like for example, some of the Proppy Cats or the Proppy Pro, to talk a little bit more about how they can also, help this entire industry. So it's an exciting start. It is an exciting start for us, even at Proppy. This is our first time doing this, so I apologize if yeah, it's first time we've never done podcasts, so we're not sure whether this is going to go viral or not, but I do hope that eventually Proppy eventually will go viral. It's not about us, it's about how we take this to the next step. We are also going to be doing a mortgage optimization plan training program. So for those of you who heard us a little earlier about mortgage optimization plan, how do we actually help reduce your mortgages, your home loans, your repayment, and you want to know a little bit more, we are going to start our Mandarin session on Wednesdays. Okay, so please register with Jazz. Now, if you have been invited to listen on our podcast from live on Zoom today, you can actually also connect with your friend that has actually asked you to come and join us. Connect with your friend, because this is your heng tai. Your heng tai would have asked you to come and listen to this podcast or come into this Zoom for a reason, and you might want to ask him or her why and what did you see in these guys, other than the fact that we've just told you our own personal story, our personal lives for the time being. And our English session will be on Thursdays. Thursdays. So we will have both the Mandarin session as well as the English session. So for the bananas like me, I'm obviously going to come on Thursdays. And we're going to have our founder, Dr. Max, and also slowly, as we get more Proppians to take over, we will be able to teach you a little bit more about the basic understanding of how this mortgage optimization plan works. Okay, so I think that's pretty much about it. Jazz is actually working behind the console. She is our current technical producer when it comes to this podcast, and also the other Zoom shows. So if you want to know a little bit more or want to connect with any one of us, please do so with Jazz. And if Jazz can just maybe type in your contact or get them into some of our WhatsApp community groups, that would be fantastic. For those of you who are listening in after this, we will also be putting in a link. Please like, subscribe, and share. This is something which we hope to begin starting also. We are going to be, this is a recorded podcast, which we are hoping to be able to put our first podcast over on YouTube as well. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you very much, Sharon, for being the first guest of honor.
First Proppy Podcast.
And the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in as well. And we're gonna we hope to you guys are gonna come back in again Wednesdays, and Thursdays, our Mandarin MOP training and our Thursday MOP training. Or otherwise, we'll come in and see you in our next Proppy podcast next week. Do check us out on our Facebook, where we're gonna update you who will be our next special guest of honor. So thank you so much. I am gonna before I go, I'm just probably gonna play my final and we'll say good night and goodbye. We'll see you again. Thank you so much. This is Snuggling with my Shadow, and this is Shadow with Sharon Leong. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And I will see you again when we see you. Cheers and good night.